A typhoon is coming. Not metaphorically, an actual typhoon, scheduled on the weather app and everything. Which means that tomorrow is the last day of decent weather for the foreseeable future, the last window. So, naturally, I packed 3 locations into one day. Terraced rice fields at sunrise, urban photography at midday, and a portrait session to close. Landscape, urban, portraits. The full range of what a photographer might reasonably need a lens to do. So, naturally, I brought the cheapest lens I own. The Nikon 28-105mm f3.5 to 4.5 DAF. $50. Possibly less if you wait long enough and the seller is emotionally vulnerable. It has a macro function. It has a zoom ring. It has the kind of build quality that suggests the engineer responsible has since moved on to other projects. I have 3 locations today. Rice fields at sunrise, urban photography in Takamatsu, and a portrait session to close. The plan is simple. Shoot everything on this lens. Find out if $50 is enough. Kochi Prefecture. 2.5 hours of mountain roads in the dark on the last morning before the typhoon arrives and ruins everyone's plans. I should mention that the lens currently sounds like there's a loose tic-tac rattling around inside every time I brake. This is either a minor mechanical quirk or a bad omen. I choose not to investigate. I have been here before. Winter. I got one photograph I'm still happy with. The question today is whether the light will cooperate. Typhoon weather does interesting things to the sky in the days before it arrives. Flat, grey, occasionally spectacular. No way to know which until you're standing in a rice field watching it happen. Either way, I'm already here. Let's do this. Right, here we are, Kochi Prefecture, terraced rice fields. The mountains are doing what mountains do. The mist is doing what mist does. And me, I have a zoom lens from 1998 that I bought for the price of a moderately ambitious lunch. The aperture is 3.5 to 4.5 at the longer end. So for those of you used to faster glass, this is the optical equivalent of arriving at a party too late to be interesting. Let's see what we get. I'll be honest with you. I had a script for this section. Several confident observations about focal length and landscape composition. Then the light came up and I forgot all of it. This is either a good sign or a very bad sign, and I won't know which until I look at the files. The autofocus of this lens on the likes of the D800 is, and I want to be precise here, fine. It is the word fine made mechanical. It focuses. It does so without any urgency or enthusiasm, but it does it. Which is fine for landscape photography because landscape is not going anywhere. I've been up since 2 AM for this. Better not be going anywhere. Here's what happened. The zoom range earned its place. 28 to 105 is genuinely useful out there. Wide enough for a full field, long enough when I needed compression. That part worked. This part, however, the corners. At f8, f11, which on this lens is roughly the middle of the aperture range. Soft, not romantically soft, not characterful soft, just soft in the way that suggests the engineer responsible was thinking about something else that day. For landscape photography, you might print large. This is a problem. You might get away with soft corners on a portrait, but you can't get away with soft corners when the corners are mountains. The center holds up. The center is fine. But a photograph is not just its center, which apparently I needed a $50 lens to remind me. Takamatsu. 2.5 hours back the way I came. because commitment is indistinguishable from stubbornness at a certain point, and I have stopped trying to tell them apart. Urban photography this time. Not street in the strict sense. I was not hunting decisive moments or following strangers. More of a walkaround. Architecture, texture, the geometry of a city at midday when the light is flat and honest and does not flatter anything. Which is, it turns out, a reasonable test for a lens. Flattering light hides problems. Midday light in a city does not hide anything. I had 2 hours sleep, 1 convenience store coffee, and approximately 0 expectations. This, historically, is when I take some of my better photographs. Or my worst. We've been over this. Urban photography on a zoom lens is a special kind of commitment. You see, with a prime lens, you make one decision, your focal length, and then you just crack on. With a zoom, you have the freedom to adjust, which means you have the freedom to stand in the middle of the pavement at 11 a.m. and twist the barrel to 35mm, realize it's a bit too wide, twist it to 50mm, realize you've cropped off someone's feet, then pull it back to 35mm and watch the moment walk past you and get on a bus. The autofocus in this context is, well, let's say it has character. It hunts slightly. It likes to think about things. It's a lens that likes to consider its options before committing, which I respect philosophically and resent practically. Takamatsu. And this is where this lens surprised me. Distortion, or rather the lack of it. Lines that should be straight or straight. Architectural photography punishes zoom lenses for this. Barrel distortion, pincushion distortion. The lens bends the world slightly and the buildings know. This lens does not do that. Or does it so gently I can't find it. Chromatic aberration, also largely absent. High contrast edges. Light walls, dark shadows, and the lens handles them cleanly. No purple fringing, no color bleed. These are the things that pixel peepers list when they call this lens a hidden gem, and they're not wrong about this. They are perhaps being a bit generous about the overall picture, but we'll get to that. Right, portraits. Hannah, who you met earlier in her professional capacity, has agreed to have her photos taken in exchange for, and I want to be accurate here, nothing. She's doing this completely against her will. The lens at the long end gives me 105mm at f4.5. For portraits, this should be potentially fine. The compression at 105 should do some work. The bokeh is going to be what it's going to be. Let's find out. The portrait session. The Kenzo Tange housing estate. Sharp angles, wide surfaces, the kind of architecture that looks like it was designed to reflect light at exactly the wrong moment for a photographer using a $50 lens. Which is to say it was perfect. Hannah arrived at this arrangement professionally. Ballet poses prepared, expressions considered. She is, it turns out, significantly better at being photographed than I am at photographing things. She does occasionally wander off. This is the one professional limitation I have noted. The portraits. Wide open. f4.5 at 105mm. It's a little bit soft. Not unusably soft, but soft in a way that you notice when you zoom in at 100%. And on top of that, things are complicated because of the light reflecting of the wide walls, and this lens tends to suffer from flare. Here's the thing though, this one works. I do not know if it works because of the lens or despite it. The softness at the edges might be doing something for the image that a sharper lens would not do. Or I'm rationalizing. Photographers rationalize constantly. It's one of our defining characteristics. The AF tracked her well, better than it had any right to for a lens that came with the approximate enthusiasm of a Tuesday afternoon. And the estate did what the estate does. Kenzo Tange designed those buildings. I just pointed a $50 lens at them and hoped. One more thing. This lens has a macro function. Now, I did not buy it for the macro function. I did not plan to use the macro function. But it's there, and ignoring it felt dishonest. $50, macro included. Right, I had this all worked out. One day, 3 locations, Typhoon incoming. I was going to tell you that the lens is a bit of a disappointment. Soft corners which matter for landscape printing. A long end that's gentle in a way that doesn't always serve you. Images that technically cover the brief but lack the character of a dedicated prime. Not a disaster, not a gem. A $50 lens that performs like a $50 lens, which should not have surprised me, but somehow it did. I was going to tell you that anti-gas argument still holds true, that I would rather have soft corners and rice fields than sharp corners and nothing to photograph, and that spending $1,000 worth of difference on a trip somewhere beats spending it on a glass and staying home. That conclusion is still true, and I stand by all of it. And then I shot the shop scene. After Hannah finished her shift at the register, I kept the lights up and mounted the lens on the Z6. No autofocus, no AA filter on the sensor getting in the way. 105mm, wide open. Tack sharp. Not acceptable for $50 sharp. Actually genuinely sharp. The kind of sharp that makes you look at the file twice and then look at the lens and then look at the file again. So either I have been completely wrong about this lens the entire time and the D800's autofocus and AA filter have been quietly sabotaging it, which would explain the Kochi corners, soft portraits, all of my complaints. Or I got lucky with this one frame and now I am rationalizing it, which, as I mentioned earlier, is what photographers do. I don't know which. And that's the honest answer. What I do know is that this lens, mounted on a body with no AA filter, focused manually at 105mm wide open, produced one of the sharper portraits I have managed to capture this year. Which means either this is a hidden gem, and I've spent an entire video missing the point, or that the point is more complicated than I originally thought, which is how it usually goes. Either way, this lens deserves a second shot. 2 AM. Again.